In our first video, we talked about security as it relates to a Niagara station, and we accomplished this by using our category service to create categories and then assigning the objects that in our station to those categories. And then we create users and give them rights to look inside and to write and to invoke things within those categories. So now let me show you how that manifests itself as a user. Last time we created a user called basic user. And when I log in as that user, you'll be able to see that because the web profile was the basic web profile, we don't have the tree over here. Now let me show you that for just a second here so you remember where it was that we put that. So we'll go into services, we'll go to our user service, our basic user, and we said that they had the basic web profile. And that stops them from being able to see the tree. Note too, I'm going to go up here and hit this chevron, that we gave them certain rights to read things, but we didn't give them write or invoke category on most things. So let me show you how that works. So here's that user that we're logged in as. Let's say for example here I can see that the space temp is whatever. Remember, this is not a live system, so I don't really have a space temp sensor, but that's where it would be. And the set point is 75. Well, let me say I want to set that. I'm really cold, so I want to set it to 82, and I'll tell it OK. This user does not have the ability to set, which is an invoke, so they cannot invoke things, so they can't set it. All right. Notice too that we gave them, if you recall, we gave them the ability to manage their own user, but there's no way to get to it in this web view or with this nav file because we haven't created any navigation. So if you're going to use PX pages that have a basic web view, you need to make sure that your navigation is available on the PX page. Okay, so let's see how that might be different with the commissioner. Now we're going to log in as that guy. Okay, because the commissioner used the default web profile, you can see that he has his tree over here. I can open things up and look at them. I can see the HVAC category and all of its things inside of it, the lighting category, and so on. I have ability to go into services and look at the user service. And before I open that, let me show you on here. Let's go look at the commissioner. His rights, I'm hitting this chevron again, were that he could see his user services category as an operator. He could also see the user services category as an admin, but in the case of the admin, he doesn't have the ability to write or invoke. So you'll be able to see when I go in and look at the user service, I can open, because my administrative capabilities allow me to do so, I can see all of the user types. As the commissioner, I can open this up, and it allows me not to change my full name or any of those things that that don't have an operator capability. Remember the flag in the column, but I can change some things like my password, my email, my cell phone number, those kinds of things. Remember, we could have put the O flag in any one of these properties if we wanted them to be able to do that. If I open a basic user, I can see this information as an admin, but I don't have any write or invoke capability, so it doesn't allow me to make any changes to this one. Okay. If I had come in here as the user, if we had given me some navigation to get in here as a user, I would have seen only my basic user profile and not only been able to change those things that an operator is allowed to change. Note 2, if I go back to my HVAC folder, which has the PX graphic associated with it, this user is allowed to set things. Let me set this at 74 instead, and this time it allowed it to go ahead and change. So that's how the various, let me flip back over to this one, that's how the various web profiles, the nav files allowing you to see and not see certain things, and the permissions associated with categories will allow you to secure your station. A couple of best practices things that are good to keep in mind. Never forget to put a password on the administrator. If you don't put a password on the administrator, all this is for nothing, because anybody can just log in with admin and no password, which is probably the most common, at least admin is probably the most common user name that's out there in the world today. So they can log in and just do about everything. Um, it's probably not a good idea, as another best practice, to allow any access by the users to the files category, or the files tree here, because that contains the config.bog file, and they open that up and get inside and see all kinds of stuff. So we don't want to give them access to that either. When you create a user, never give any user this super user access. There's really no need for them to do so. If you have a need, a legitimate need that you think that you need to have somebody do that, it's probably a good idea to give it to them briefly, but then remove it. You can even make yourself a Outlook meeting or something to remind you to remove that super user capability. That'll give them the same rights as an admin, and we don't ever want to do that. Okay, so using categories and objects within the categories and the user service providing permissions to those categories, you'll allow yourself to have a fairly secure, actually a very secure ProBuilder or Niagara experience. Thank you very much for watching our video.